Hi, everybody. Welcome to another beautiful Monday with us and a brand new month. And of course, a brand new day on this fourth day of April of 2022. I am astronumerologist Lloyd Strayhorn, live with Lloyd, where the joy of numerology is the joy of learning and enlightenment. As you see, I'm about to introduce my very distinguished guest in every sense of the word, one of the most respected men in metaphysics, one that I've been knowing since the 80s. So we've got about a 30, 40-year history, he and I. And so I'm very honored to, snatch him out of his very busy schedule to share with us some of his wisdom that we can all learn from his experience. But in the meantime, though, I'm going to do the forecast as I do the Live with Lloyd Cosmic Forecast. Don't forget, we're the joy of learning, and don't please like, share, and subscribe. I got to do that because I will forget, no question. But today is Monday, the 4th of April. The sun is in the sign of Aries. The moon is in Taurus, but later tonight at 11:04 p.m., it moves into the air sign and mutable sign of Gemini. It's a one universal month, an 11 universal week, a 5 universal day. So this means that those want to be in a position to take advantage of any and all opportunities. And it's a whole day filled with other things, but opportunities is one of the benchmark of a 5 cycle. For those astrologically, Geminis, Virgos, Aquarians, and Leos will be the persons who are likely to be standouts, and those born on the 4th, the 5th, the 13th, the 14th, the 22nd, the 23rd, and the 31st. If you notice, all these dates add up to the number 4. All right, so let's see here. How we going to do this? Okay. All right. Here we go. Hey, everybody. And I got my distinguished guest right next to me, Dr. Phil Valentine. Phil, how you doing? Ho. Okay, Phil, how are you?
I'm well, beloved. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Before we start this show, I got a comment that is, I normally don't respond to comments, but this person here, whoever they are, they says, please don't do another bibliography. Most of us already know of him. And if not, go to his site, hint, hint. That begs the question. I can't assume that everybody knows about you, Dr. Valentine, okay? So I ain't going to even start. Not only that, but if it's all of that, instead of giving a hint as a website, why don't they just actually post the website? That's all I'm saying. Let's help a brother out if we're going to do this. You know we used to knocking each other. Don't do that. Not here. Not on this program. All right. So, as long as I've been knowing this distinguished gentleman, friend, brother, call it what you will, I'm not going to assume that everybody knows who he is. Okay? That's like me saying, wow, you don't know who Phil is, man? Okay? Well, there's somebody in here who is probably joining us tonight for the first time who needs to know. And Phil, if we need to give a little backdrop about how you got started, what you do, this is your show, brother, and welcome.
Thank you. I guess, um, sometimes there's a familiarity. I love all my brothers and sisters who don't follow me, but just do me the honor of just listening to me. And a lot of young people are now coming to me and saying they're discovering my work for the first time. They don't know who I am, they just know what I've said on the YouTube and other channels or so forth. And I think what you're doing, as far as I guess introducing me at a more fundamental level, helps them to understand more about not only what I teach, but where that teaching comes from.
Good. I need to ask a question. We were talking about diet. Why is diet so important, Phil?
Well, it's well, first of all, semantics are very, very important to us when we deal with metaphysics. So we kind of taken the word diet out of that particular lexicon or that
Mm,
particular length because the first three letters in the word diet ends in a cross. So if you look at the word diet, it's DIE and there's a cross at the end. So we don't use diets,
mm.
we use renutrition. So we renutrify. or something to that word. We like to add words that take away from certain things. And you know who actually helped me to learn that are the Rastafarians. The
Mm,
Rastafarians take words and twist them into a more positive meaning, a more loving meaning, a more Jah Rastafari, more
hmm.
loving meaning. So when I looked at the word diet and I saw the three letters that preceded a cross with a T, I said, whoa.
When you said that, I'm saying, whoa, I never thought of it like that, but it
Yeah.
shows
Mhm.
what happens with our perspective.
Indeed. So there's no aspersions as far as the use of the word, but as far as the meaning and what it conveys to another person's mind, then we understand. So as far as the diets are concerned, or renutrition or the renutritionalizing, we we know that the fundamental part of the growth in consciousness is to feed the instrument that helps us to ascend in consciousness, and that's the brain and the body. And so when we put the proper things into our bodies, there is a cessation of aging. Your skin and your outlook and your breath and everything about you begins to change in its quality.
Hmm.
So eating the proper foods helps us to maintain a proper frame of reference for our perception of reality. So the more we eat and feed our children certain foods, we have here like my wife, Dr. Nalani. We deal with what is known as JP nutrition. We can't actually broadcast or speak of it in a commercialized forum, but we
Hmm.
can talk to you about the JP product and its concentration of nutrients. And what we want to do is to feed our children a certain type of way that they will crave more live food than, as you were saying, the dead foods. And if you want to eat dead foods, what happens? It extracts your life in order for you to process it. So if you understand the metaphysics of food, when you eat dead food, it robs you of your life in order for you to get it out of your body. When you eat live foods or foods that have more life preserved in it, a lot more of the necessary nutrients and enzymes, then it takes less stress for the body because there's an exchange, there's a give and take. So the
Hmm.
amount of energy you lose in digestion and assimilation and so forth, the body has to sacrifice a certain amount of nutrients to get rid of the material. Because if you say you have like a half a pound or a quarter pound in your hand and you're eating a quarter pound, the body does not, or the cells do not absorb that quarter pound. It just takes through irritation, it passes through the esophagus and into the alimentary tract, and through agitation and activation of response by the body, that's what makes you feel satiated. It becomes almost like a drug. Say, for instance, if you start eating more ice creams and burgers and so forth, since there's no life in it, it takes your life and then creates a addiction for the material that robbed you of your life. So you can't get addicted by an apple. So if you eat an apple, you can't say, "Oh, I'm fiending for an apple." Doesn't happen because the apple has at least 10,000 nutrients in it that can be used immediately or stored for later on. So the body gives up less energy and receives more to store as vital force.
You
So
know,
go
I
right
was
ahead.
going to say what's interesting.
Hmm.
I had a client one time that told me if the food wasn't artificial, they don't want it.
Hmm.
And yet the now they're talking about how much if you talk especially to the elders, they will tell you food don't taste the same.
Hmm.
And probably because of all the processing or whatever. So when you talk about live foods, that's almost kind of new to
Right.
some people in this concept. What do you mean live food?
Hmm.
Okay. But
Indeed.
like you're saying that it's more agreeable. So continue. I just thought that was interesting.
Well, yes, of course. And like, for instance, broccoli today has lost at least 70% of its nutrient content. The broccoli today that we eat is not the broccoli of our great grandmothers and great great grandfathers. It
Really?
does not have, no, because, like, say, for instance, if you go to Whole Foods, okay, which is pretty much a money trap, they overprice everything. But what they do is they accept certain products that are not um, ripened on the vine, so to speak. In other words, at least 80% of the nutrients of any type of live food happens at the point of ripening, at the point when the plant gives up its greatest amount of force in order for it to survive. In other words, it puts most of its nutrients into, face, for instance, the apple or the fruit in the tree. Why? Because that fruit is not only to nurture the person or the animal that eats it, but the seeds that the animal passes through its system or that we give up and supposedly put back on the ground allows for that life form to proliferate itself. So it
Mm-hmm.
gives up most of its nutrients at the very end at the point of ripening. But but because of industry and because of the commercialism of food, we do not pick it at the ripening. We pick it before it ripens and before it receives that 80% of its nutrients. So it doesn't matter what you take in that's organic today, nowadays, because by the time you receive it, it's been picked early and ripened on the shelf, not on the vine.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Mm-hmm.
may be eating organic foods and may look, nutritious and so forth, but it was actually ripened there. That's why you get fruits that are hard and so forth. You never eat anything that's hard. When I was in Trinidad and I used to, pick guava or pick mango or just climb the trees and chop down a coconut. You used to know which one it is you need to chop. You need to know which one. You feel it a little bit, and then you know exactly which one to pick.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
today, you can go in there and you feel all these fruits and vegetables that are super hard. It means that they do not contain the necessary nutrients that the tree or the bush was supposed to give to it. So this is why the JP nutrition, which ripens, is ripened on the vine and is picked and grown by ma and pa farmers. We don't use industrialized farmers. We use the ma and pa farmers who ripen it on the vine and then through a proprietary process extract all of the nutrients from it and the sugars, so it's good for people who have diabetes and all of it, and then it retains its natural enzymic contents is still in the JP nutrition. And we recommend it highly because that's what keeps us or keeps me talking for 12 and 13 hours when I do my lectures or my webinars.
Yeah, it's interesting because I had the pleasure of going to Trinidad on a couple of occasions.
Mhm,
And on one of those occasions, I climbed up the mountains with my the person I was spending time with,
mhm.
and before we got to the waterfall, there was the stream along parts of the about going up,
Yeah.
and there were mangoes in the stream where
Mhm.
you could actually pick the mango up, open it, and eat it. I mean, you think the mangoes here in Brooklyn, Harlem was
No,
that was the
no.
most incredible experience.
Mhm.
Believe me.
Oh, indeed, indeed, and that was how I was raised. I was raised in the bush, in a place called Mayaro, on a place called Buenospa Road. If anybody knows it, it's down in the southern tip, about a 90 miles from Venezuela across the waters.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of what was in Venezuela would wash up on our shores. It was just a shame that because of its location and the fact that there were not too many people there, then it turned out to be a place where a lot of drugs were being brought in, and Mayaro and that area began to deteriorate after I left. About 10 years after I left, I heard that it had not been the same ever since. But I lived in the bush. I had to be careful of alligators. We had to be
Really?
very careful of snakes. Yeah, we had something called mapipi, and these super poisonous snakes. And then from out of Venezuela, we used to have these little coral snakes, and they used to have I forgot the name of the little thing. For us as children, we had to be very careful because there were two different types of snakes that looked like this, and there was they would say like red and white, red and white, red and white, something 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 something. Used to be a little jiggle that the elders used to teach the children so that we don't go and pick up the snake. It's a very pretty thing, but
Yeah,
it's
but
the
not picking up the wrong one though.
that's right. The most deadly thing is there was no antidote for it. That's
Really?
where I lived. That's where I lived. A matter of fact, I remember going up in a tree one day, and there was a snake that was up there that had just eaten a squirrel, and it had somehow crawled up. It was a very low one, and that coconut looked just so good. But when I chopped the coconut, it fell to the ground. I was looking in the face of this thing that was looking back at me, sticking its tongue out to try to smell what I was doing, just who I was. But I stayed up there until I cramped up, and they didn't know where I was, and they came looking for me. A lot of the helpers from my grandfather's farm, and when they got to me, the one of the Dravidian brothers climbed up the tree and chopped the snake with the cutlass. And when it fell to the ground, you saw this lump it had just eaten, and it had kind of crawled up there. I don't know how it got up there, but it crawled up there. And Lord have mercy, I was like, first of all, shaking.
Yeah, right, and rightfully so. Are you serious?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I didn't think it was a poisonous one because the guy who saw it, who was like behind me, and he came over and chopped right over where I was, and it fell to the ground. He said that it would have bit you if it wasn't so gorged and kind of sleepy and trying to sleep off what it was digesting. It would have probably tried to bite you.
But that would have made sense because if it's good
Mhm.
with what is just eaten, then
Yeah.
like anything, if you get your stomach full,
Oh
you
yeah.
lay on
It
it and
was
think
huge.
about
The stomach. It was like this, and then the snake.
it. Wow, wow.
Yeah.
You know, what led you to, because your wife, Dr. Nalani, has put out a book, The Seven Steps to Health and Wellness. In fact, let me show your wife's book. And I'm wondering why people don't really understand that a lot of the things we do is organic. This is her book,
Hmm.
Seven Steps to Health and Wellness.
Hmm.
And now behind her book, like you said, when people went shopping, they even took her book with her. What do you
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. They would tell her in different story form and in different ways that they would call to. And when she would be doing their consultations, they would say, "Well, I have your book with me, and I read it because it's a small book. It's about 200 and something pages, and it's a very easy read. The way she laid out each one of the subjects, and she broke it down in accordance with Jehudi's the Kabbalion, and she broke down the seven principles of the Kabbalion and how they work in concert with the essential oils. And we found that the essential oils were used by our Kemetic ancestors in order to embalm as well as heal and so forth. So in this book, it says using essential oils with the Kabbalion as a guide. So the actual principle of healing that was engendered in our ancestors, not only over in Africa, but over here, is the use of nature as a means to enhance healing or to maintain health.
Can
So
you explain Kabbalion for those that may not understand the term?
the Kabbalion was actually the Greek terminology for a book that was essentially, of course, the Europeans took everything and essentially took the 7 days. Now, when we say the word day, day is where you get the word dei, which essentially is the Latin for God. So the 7 days were the 7 days of the ancient Kemetics were the seven gods that ruled the condensation of reality, or what we call matter, into existence. So
Hmm.
each of the gods of that day essentially became, like they said, that everything God made heaven and earth in 7 days. Well, they took it from the ancient eschatology of the ancient Kemites. And they began to deal with the ancient days. And of course, the Europeans made it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And when you deal with Monday, it's Moon Day. Tuesday, I forgot what it is, but Wednesday, Thursday, Thursday, Friday is Frig Day. And these are them just twisting our knowledge into what they can understand of reality if you want to deal with it. But
Hmm.
when you're
Hmm.
dealing with the days of the week, you're dealing with the 7 steps or step down principles that came from spirit into matter. and they're kind of homogenized into what we call the days of the week. The days of the week are artificial. They really were created for archaeological, agricultural purposes.
Hmm.
Everything was set up in in our, I guess, in our culture and so forth around certain phases of the moon, certain ways that the earth spoke to us during certain seasonal times as the sun circled above us in a kind of a parabolic means. It didn't just circle in this way, it circled this way,
More elliptical.
more elliptical, exactly. So it will go, by the time, say, we're heading right now into June, it's heading from the lower part, or what we call the southern hemisphere, and it's coming into a tighter circle up in the upper, or what we call the upper quadrant, or the northern hemisphere. And then when it reaches to its pinnacle, that is June 21st, that's the time when Jesus, essentially as its highest, it's ascend, he came out of the grave. He was born on the December 21st, at the time when he died. No, he died at 21st, the 3 days laid in the grave, and then was born again, so to speak, on the 25th. That's the sun. And as the sun rises and the elliptic becomes ever tighter, it moves from the southern hemisphere to the northern hemisphere. That's where we say Christ is ascending to the heavens. Okay.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
right at that point, you have the polar star, and then the sun is moving at that particular direction right there. So when it's in the northern hemisphere, we get summer. In the southern hemisphere, they get winter. Right now, they're coming out of their summer, and we're coming out of our winter. So the sun is now making a tighter circle above us. That's exactly what it is that we're looking at when we say that, when we're looking for health and wellness and so forth. And this, I don't want to leave the basic theme, but when we're looking at health and wellness, our ancestors knew that the earth itself spoke to us based upon what the sun did and the moon did. We were in a gigantic cyclotron. We are in, there's no way for us to have an atmosphere unless that atmosphere is closed. Now, this is, I know I'm going off the deep ends, but I want to make sure that the people understand that we are under a type of crystal dome. That crystal dome is made of hydrogen, it's made of compressed hydrogen. And most people didn't know that. I was speaking about that back in 1991, 92, that we were in a compressed hydrogen dome. And the only way we could actually exist and have an atmosphere is if there is a closed circuit. The closed circuit that we live in is the sun and the moon orbiting above us, creating a cyclotronic effect that deals with electromagnetism. And that's the only way that we could actually create an atmosphere. Now, if they tell you, and this is something that most of the brothers and sisters don't understand, if they tell you that space is a vacuum, then why is it that we are not getting all our atmosphere sucked out into outer space? Most
That
people
is true. And in fact, this planet Earth,
Mhm.
we're already in space.
Yeah, but we're in a
You know what
kind
I'm
of,
saying?
we're in a closed space. That's the whole thing. The only way that life can exist is like in a terrarium. You have to
Mm,
understand that life cannot exist in a ball that's just out in outer space in a vacuum. All of that is a myth. There's no way for us to exist in a atmosphere that exists. Here's our atmosphere. Here's outer space. Outer space, they say, is a vacuum. You cannot put a vacuum next to an atmosphere without that vacuum sucking the atmosphere out into space. It's ridiculous. So we are covered against that. That's why they talk about in the ancients the waters above and the waters below.
hmm.
Everything is water, what we call water, because everything is a wave. Everything is waveform until it becomes particularized, which is what we call creation. So we
Hmm.
have to understand that in our health is the same way. We are 85, 80% water, 75 to 80% water. So therefore, everything that we take must be based in water. The food we eat must contain certain amounts of purified as well as qualified forms of water with nutrition in it that matches the necessities for the body to live within this contained water. We are nothing more than a water bag holding a lot of water together in different qualities that we call blood, that we call, sperm, that we call this and that. We are water bearing creatures that are breathing a certain kind of water, which is the air that we breathe. Is not air, it's a qualified form of water. Just like the fish are swimming in a qualified form of water that we can't go and breathe in, but they can breathe in. If they
Hmm.
tried to breathe in our form of water, they would die because the machinery is not meant for processing that type of water. So, in dealing with natural health, the first thing we must always do is stay hydrated. Hydrated in proper water, not this dead water that they're feeding us through the filtering system. I'm talking about water that comes directly from the rain that we can filter out because that's where all of your proper nutrients are coming from. They're coming directly from the sun, and the sun is actually purifying rainwater that is actually falling from up high down into streams. And that's the thing about what we're doing. We're trying to get as much purified water into our system and enough water in our system for us to process the foods that we need so that we can extract the proper foods and through our elimination put that back into nature and recycle. But we don't do that anymore.
You know what's interesting? Dr. Sabi and Dick Gregory both had the same philosophy
Hmm.
that they all says. First of all, now the whole thing is stay hydrated. That's
Hmm.
the new term. That, in other words, just drink a lot of water.
Hmm.
But Dr. Sabi and Dick Gregory, the first thing they said when you get up in the morning, the first thing you drink is water.
Indeed.
And in
Indeed.
fact, they says those who drink water the first thing in the morning cut their episode of heart attacks in half, if not altogether. Just water in the morning.
Water at least a half hour before you go to bed does the same thing.
Really
Yes.
good. But I know the first thing in the morning, both these great men,
Hmm.
our now ancestors, always talked
Hmm.
about the emphasis that when you greet that day, you greet that day with some water.
Indeed. You greet the day with water first. And that's why everybody's now picking up on what the Japanese had invented for cancer treatment, which was to alkalinize water. And they used to have this gigantic tank in Japan that alkalinized the water. And I believe it was either Japanese or European that kind of made it into a smaller model for your kitchen sink. So
Hmm.
you alkalize your water to about 8.5. You work it up to that, of course. You don't want to take it too concentrated and then get it up to 9. So, but you can't over alkalinize the body because you can do just as much damage if you don't have the acid working in context with the alkaline. Just like the fact that you are an organic battery, you have to have a potential hydrogen or pH balance, or else you can become too much alkalinizing, also causes you to become susceptible to having yeast. So just as much acid, you can have acid or fungus that will live in an alkalinized environment, just like you can have a certain type of yeast that will live in a very highly acidic environment. You can't
Hmm.
overdo either one.
So, in other words, the key is to find that middle ground.
Yes. And the way to do that, the intermediary, is the fruit and vegetables. And they're the ones who give us the appetites. You see, the cell can become very addicted. The more you rob the cell of its natural vital force, the more it goes into an addiction. In other words, the more you eat something that's dead, the more you will become addicted to it and crave it. So
Interesting.
anything, yes, anything that you eat that causes a craving is causing an addiction. So no, real food does not cause a craving. So if you crave for a food, you crave for fried chicken, you crave for your fat back, you crave for your beer or your alcohol. That those foods are robbing you of your vital force. And then the body says, okay, if that's what you want to do, the same with smoking cigarettes. If that's
Hmm.
what you want to do, then
Hmm.
I will adapt because the body is a fantastic instrument. It
It
will adapt.
certainly is. If that's what you want to do, it will accommodate
It
you.
will accommodate you to your death.
Mm.
But it will always be towards life. It will always try to maintain life. But if you don't give it the support mechanisms for it to sustain itself, then you will definitely have a problem because you have nothing to pull from when the body says, okay, I'm shutting down your taste buds. You can't eat anymore because you can't smell anything. See, by the time you feel that you can't breathe, or you're stuffed up, or your sinuses and you're getting a fever, your body was 2 weeks prior preparing for that moment. By the time you get a sniffle, by the time you get fever, that's the last stages of a healing process that the body initiated weeks before.
Mm-hmm.
What do? You grab pills, you grab things, doc, shut this particular feeling down so I can get back to work, so I can get
Mm-hmm.
back to my life. Not realizing that what you're doing is shortening your life by not allowing the body to do what it needs to do to save your life
Organically.
organically.
Question: do some people have, shall we say, a problem or issue or a disconnect in trying to understand what you're trying to convey to them to save their lives? Maybe.
The problem is they don't when it's too late. Everybody, has their own idea about what health is. And everything that you see coming out today about what to do, water, all of these, the ancients before us, like Baba Dick Gregory and
Mm-hmm.
Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Sebi and the rest of us, all of them were telling them everything. We're just handing the torch over. Now everybody that's making money on what we've been talking about, and going into big products and so forth, they're pretty much, there's people who are a little bit skeptical. They, and young people, they have a recovery rate, and they have an idea of death, or a sense of death that's way down the road. And I don't blame. I had the same thing. The idea of death, or the idea that sickness can cripple you and so forth, doesn't happen to them. That's how youth thinks about health at certain times. Only when they shut down and they find that they cannot recover, and especially when we get older and they start getting wiser. I get my wife and I, we get calls from people who say, I used to do A, B, and a third, and now the doctors say A, B, and a third, and I now want to think about looking, in a natural way, and all of a sudden they come to you, and the doctors say, well, you don't have this much time left. Okay, well, I got to go and see if I can try, natural means now. And so they
Mm-hmm.
come to us
Mm-hmm.
sometimes and they say, work a miracle. Well, I can't promise you anything. We will work with you if you have that. If we find that you have the stamina, and you have the will in your mind to be able to deal with the healing process. But what I must convey, and what my wife must convey, is if you've been taking drugs for 10 years in order to suppress symptoms, then we have to work through that particular imbalance that the drugs
Mm-hmm.
have created before we can get the body to a place where it will respond to natural means. So it's very difficult when people get frustrated because we can't give them the miracle that supposedly we profess about natural healing. No, natural healing comes from natural processes. If you naturally break down and you don't take any drugs, and you seek to remove the obstacles to healing, you understand that you allow the body to do what it does. No doctor will
Yes.
ever tell you that he is doing any healing or she is doing any healing. The body is the healer, the intelligence of the cell. The Most High put its intelligence into every cell, and I will put a cell's intelligence against 10,000 doctors. Your body is the healer. And once you understand and understand that you are the healer, you surrender. See, in medicine, Western medicine, it's an attack on what they perceive to be an enemy to the body. That's what a disease is to them. It's
Mm-hmm.
an enemy. To us, it's a forewarning. It's a language that we must decode. We must remove whatever it is that the body is saying, I'm suffering from. And so when you remove the obstacle to that healing, and you allow the body, which of course, like I said, there's no cure, there's only consequence. Are you
Mm-hmm.
ready? Are you ready to deal with the consequences of healing? Because that's when you learn that everything you've done prior to this moment is now going to come back and show you exactly how much damage you did to the body.
But by that time, it's almost too late.
Sometimes, but my wife and I have seen miracles.
Well, here's the thing, because I've got this one at the bottom of your screen. where Andre Bradley said she wished that they had discovered you guys years earlier. I believe my life would have been completely different, more enlightened. So, in other words, it's not too late for this person. It's
No,
just a matter of redirecting the consciousness in terms of their eating habits, lifestyles, or whatever the case may be. I take it. Would that be correct? The
right here.
mindset.
Yes. Uh, I had the privilege of sitting at the feet of Jiddu Krishnamurti, and he became the teacher that I dealt with when dealing with the deeper parts of metaphysics. And what was the part that came to me was the most profound thing that came to me that made me formulate words such as, when the mind is in pain, the body cries out. When you understand that matter follows mind, you understand that it's the matter. What's the matter is the mind. You say, well, what's the matter? I don't feel well. Okay, why? Okay, well, I'm feeling I have a liver problem. Well, what is the liver? What motion, what particular frame of mind would cause your liver to go through that? Well, anger,
Mm-hmm.
frustration,
Mm-hmm.
and all of what you do to suppress the feeling of anger through alcohol, for example, or through something that will affect the liver. Because as I speak to my students, inside of your body, I say to them, what do you call your lungs, your heart, your pancreas? What do you call those? They say, organs. Oh, well, in the Catholic Church, what is it that is in the church? Because remember, they say a church is a body.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What's in that church that makes the music, that makes you sing and give praise? They say the organs. So the organs are giving off a particular frequency on a particular note that spells health. When you are embarrassing, what they call embarrassing, or abusing or insulting one of those organs, you insult one of those notes. And instead of you playing in harmony now from within, you're playing a dissonant chord. It comes out as a headache. It comes out as a back pain, or it comes out as heartburn, or it comes out as something. That's because you played a dissonant chord and you insulted a certain organ based upon the frame of mind that you were keeping. Okay? So
It's
once that
interesting,
mind
Bill.
changes, once your mind changes, there is a process that took you to that pain, and there's a process that takes you away. But that walk away from it takes strength, because it's an addiction that you're kicking, an addiction to a particular way of thinking that caused you to have a particular way of eating and consuming. And the two are linked. When you understand that, then it's easy to listen to someone that tells me, well, I have a heartburn on my lungs. The doctor said I have this. The doctor said I have cancer. Well, what is cancer? Well, we just say, instead of you using that word, for us, cancer, if you want to deal with it as a growth, is nothing more than radical yeast. So when you take
Really? That's
away,
interesting. That's
yeah,
interesting, Bill.
that's what we say. Because if the etiology of a cancer is the same as you dealing with yeast, and yeast lives the same way in the same environment that a cancer does, what is cancer? My wife will tell you that when we first met some 20 something years ago, when we first met, she came to me, and she will talk to you when your time comes again.
Yeah, we definitely gonna have her on.
Oh, we're going to definitely have her. She has a story to tell you, even the one that you would not believe that just happened. But I'm going to let her tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
She's such, oh, what a brave woman. And so she came to me at this particular time, and she had breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And I told the story many times. She's told the story many times, so I feel it's all right for me to tell that story. So she had the breast cancer, and they said, okay, a lumpectomy for one, and a complete vasectomy, not vasectomy, mastectomy. I'm sorry, a
Mm-hmm.
mastectomy for the other. So I
Mm-hmm.
told her, I said, oh, okay, and I did not make it an important issue. See, doctors want to make it important, because they want to feel important, and they feel that they have the on high. They went up to Mount Medicine, and they were given, all of the amen, and they came down
Mm-hmm.
here, and yeah. They were given from on high. No, doctors' lifespans are 56 years. Most people don't know that.
Seriously?
Seriously, they just put out one. Look, I mean, Israel did a research on the lifespans of doctors, and they said the lifespan of most doctors uh, are at 56 years.
Hmm.
But anyway, as she came, I put her on a particular regimen, but she'll tell you about it. And in 45 days, she went back and it was gone.
So
The
it
same thing
goes
happened.
back to diet.
Yes, not even goes back to diet, but the frame of mind, the change of the mind. Because you have to remember that certain people are hurt and they carry certain hurts in different parts of the body depending on where they are emotionally affected.
That's the trauma.
Women, yes, that's the trauma. Her trauma was with her mother passing at that point. And the trauma, whenever you have a trauma from a feminine perspective based on mothering, either you're a bad mother or a good mother, or you missed your mother, or your mother, something traumatically dealing with mothering. That's what happens. Okay. But there's also other things that cause breast cancers. And most people don't know that abortions are, the more abortions you have, the more you're prone to breast cancers.
Seriously?
Yes. Why? Because essentially, when a baby is growing in you, okay, the woman's body is taken over completely by the Most High to bring that particular child into fruition and into the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The body changes in order to adopt and adapt to that beautiful child that's being born.
Mm-hmm.
When you rip it from your womb, the milk duds or the ducts, not duds, but milk ducts that were forming to make the milk, which are undifferentiated cellular material, stops growing and stays in the breasts. And if they do not filter out or the body cannot get rid of it, it becomes cancerous.
That's uh, that's pretty amazing. And you know what though? There are things that are said that just makes what I call common sense.
Mhm.
When you hear something, you can almost tell. And I will tell you this from my experience on this side, reading countless women over the decades, right?
Mhm.
Those who have, I've noticed, terminated their child for whatever reason never feels the
The
same, if that
same.
makes sense.
Never again. And we get that from the women who say that they have it. And they're very embarrassed when we ask them, especially when they do come for breast cancer situations. We ask them, how many abortions have you had? Some women, three. A woman came to us, she had nine.
Mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
See? And women don't understand that their bodies are they're so precious, that they're so sensitive. They've been made to believe they can do what men do because men have bodies like, and where there's no more gender, there's no more separation. And they've fallen for that nonsense. Whereas the women always were the inner society. They were protected. For instance, when you go to the Skra, when you went to say the Zulu nation, there were different layers to their compound. There was an outer layer, then it was two to three layers before you even saw the women and children, because you never, ever, ever expose that which is precious to you to the outside world. So you have to go through the warriors first. And then the warriors have to go to counsel with people who are the elders who say, well, we have this person here at the outset who wishes to advance. Then the elders would say, well, we don't know. What is this person? Then they put them through a test. But before you even get to see a child or a woman, you went through the test. Today, no, no. Women want to
And
be
it's
out
and it's
front.
reflected in our relationships too.
Oh yeah. Well, the women want to be out front. They want to go into combat. They want to play football. They want to play basketball. They simply want to imitate us. There is nothing new that a woman is doing in this society that she or the woman or the female instigated and put together and created jobs, created society, created buildings. They're simply taking over what a man would do, what a man would do to form families, because it's men who create families, not women. When you see these single parent families like that run by women, that's not a family. A lot of people want you to think it's a family. It's not a family. It's a what we call a survival unit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not a family. So today, those who wanted to destroy the United States knew that they could destroy the United States by undermining and destroying the bonds that kept community, family, and humans together for countless centuries before. They had to destroy that natural bond that men had for women and women had for men. And they
Now
did.
I hear the thing that like I don't need a man. Really?
Oh, yeah,
Well,
they
how did
don't.
you get here?
Well, because the state now is the man. The state, why do you think that there are more men in jail? Why do you think that the education system was changed into what we call the outcome based education? Because they wanted to undermine those who are the greatest threat to the rule of those, what we call the deep state. You have to destroy the strongest part. That's what Sun Tzu said in The Art of War. For to kill or to destroy or to undermine a superior enemy, you have to undermine them from within by creating distrust in the primary authority. The primary authority of a society is the man, not the woman. She is the secondary authority. And Africa was not a matriarchy. That's ridiculous because no society that's matriarchal builds pyramids.
That is true. That is
It's
quite true.
ridiculous. And that's what they want you to be. That's what the feminists want you to believe. And the thing about being when God was a woman, that book what came out that the feminists put out, yes, God is a woman when that child is born. When that child is born, the mother is God. And that you equate that metaphysically with a young mind or someone who is not spiritually mature. So a grouping of nations or people who are not spiritually mature will see the female as God. But you have to always come to the one who is projecting or initiating the Godhead in her as well as in himself, and that's the male. She can't impregnate herself.
No, she can't.
The
She can
creator
try.
is
She can try till the cows come home, but that's not happening.
the masculine principle is always invisible. The feminine is always visible.
Repeat that one more time.
The masculine principle is always invisible. That is the initiating force. Cause is never seen, only the effects.
Ah, okay, got it.
Okay? Metaphysics is me teaching you the language of cause and how to recognize how cause creates effect. And when you understand the language of cause, you don't fall for this nonsense about woman is God, even man is God, or separating this. They're both God, but they're both based in principles of cause and effect. We cause life to come into it. That's why we are the bringers of life and death. Why do you think we do wars so much as men? Because we are the bringers of life and we are the creators of death. Sustaining life and nurturing life, that is the feminine principle. She is the original teacher. She is the one who formulates the ethics in the mind of the child. And today, she's now teaching her child to hate her father, his father. And if the father has issues with the mother and they separate, that mother has to look into the face of that boy who reminds her of that man that she hates. So the boy now has to deal with her issues, which then turns him, because he has nobody to imprint if she doesn't let him see his father, he's imprinting her. So instead of being a problem solver, he becomes a problem stater. All he can do is bitch about problems, but never be taught how to solve them,
As men do.
as men do. We are the problem solvers. But the thing is, we haven't been able to solve the problem because those men who are in the so-called upper elite, I call them the maggots of the parasitic elite, they understand the role of the man, which is why they had to disempower him. the way the Romans used to after they conquered a nation. They used to strip them of the males and send those males over to different provinces that they conquered, away from the family, away from their nation, and put the woman in charge. That's what we're dealing with right now. The Roman Catholic Church, the Jesuits, who's pretty much running most of the banking systems that you see around the world. It's now coming down, of course.
That's interesting. And that explains a lot to me when you break it down like that too, Phil.
Mhm.
And is that why you wrote this fascinating book? Because one person here, I was looking through some of the comments. They talked about they read the Wounded Womb, and in fact, let me show that to people. So, because we talked about it the first time, but I want people to get the cover, see the cover of the book, and that is here. Can you explain this book? What made you write this book in the first place?
Well, back in the days when Queen Afua and I were married and we had the Heal Thyself Center together,
Mm-hmm.
most of the diseases that were actually prominent in in our community were women. 80% of the people that we saw were actually women, maybe 90. And most of them had one particular thing in common, and that was they had some kind of womb issue. And we combined the physics and the metaphysics to find out what it is they did. And a lot of them were very high functioning, highly motivated, independent women that were really running and strong and, and the toll that was taken on the body, because you understand that the word career etymologically derives from the word combat.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're dealing with a career, you're always in some kind of combat mode, whether it be against yourself, against others who want whatever it is that you are seeking and wish to go for. The day, you have no time for yourself. And the one thing that women need at least 1 to 3 days out of each month is rest. And because of that equality, chasing that equality and individualism and I'm independent and all that, what it is that their ancestors used to do during those times when women began to menstruate. Remember, I said began to menstruate because they never menstruated before.
Really?
Never did. Matter of fact, a lot of Europeans who came into different indigenous cultures were fascinated at the fact that the women did not menstruate. Most of them didn't. And when they did, they had these huts or these places outside of the village or outside of the home that they would go to and heal by resting, and they would never stand straight up. It would be always that they would have to crouch down into this place, and they would do either the sweat lodge or whatever in order for them to purify, because you do not hemorrhage every week, every month, and say that you're healthy, because that's what it is. It's hemorrhaging. There's no special blood that's put aside for you each month. Your body is doing something that it was uncharacteristically doing, and that is against ovulating against its will. Women who wanted to have children, excuse me a minute, let me do this.
Yeah, this is extremely fascinating. So I hope all of you who are listening, and there are quite a few comments. I thank you very very much, and I think Phil is about ready. But this is very very important to understand the power of women, and yet the power of men too,
Mhm.
because you know what I found, Phil. To my surprise, hold on, let me get this straight. To my surprise, recently they says that the majority of divorces are now initiated by women.
80%, 85% of all divorces are initiated by women, and
Why?
50% of marriages. Why?
Yes.
Because women are fickle, men are faithful. People don't understand that. They say, well, hey man, my man is rushing off, he's doing this. Why does a man go out and cheat as much as he does today? Because women make the cow available.
Uh huh.
You got to remember back in the day, If there were unmarried women, the law of that particular tribe was you get that woman married to a man so that she doesn't become a rogue in the community
Yes, yes. And there used to be a saying, why get the cow when you can get the milk?
for free. So where do women usually go when they're alone? They don't have any men. They go to the bars. They go to the pickup places. They go to Tic Tac or whatever they call that. They go to these different places, and it's just hit me up once, and that's it. The society has gone insane. Women were protected. They sought protection. Fathers protected daughters and made
Yes,
sure they knew
definitely.
that the man that they had interest in, that he could take care of this daughter of his. Today, if a daughter tried, a father tried to do that with a daughter, she could take him to court
That is true. And do it too.
and do
But
it. Okay.
remember in the days of the Nation of Islam when it was at its height in Harlem, it was a
Hmm.
given. You
Hmm.
did not mess with a Muslim sister.
Oh no,
Heads would roll.
you
There
heads would
was no
roll.
question.
Definitely, we protected our own. But
Yeah.
women don't want protection today because they've been told they don't need protection from a man, not realizing that only after they've gone through what we call the so-called carousel, the so-called cock carousel from the
Hmm.
ages of 19 to 25, 26, after they've worn out, they say, okay, you can okay, now I'm 30 and I'm ready to settle down and have my white dress and wedding, and don't realize that, when you got a used car on the lot, you're trying to sell it at the list price for brand new, and you have this car that's been
It's
worn
not
out.
what's happening.
Ain't nobody going to have that. But they've been told that those precious years when they are most fertile, that's the time they need to seek a career, to be like men, to go out and do combat. And of course, you're extolling the CEOs, but most of the CEOs I know are very lonely,
Yeah, very
and
unhappy.
they say they wish that they had done it differently. They can't have it all. Women been told they can have it all. They can't, because them eggs don't get a refresher every year.
Well put. Well put. Oh, by the way, remember when you talked when you were in the tree about the snake? Uh, there
Yeah.
was a person that called in. In fact, this is it at the bottom of the screen, where she says, "I heard of that. It's something like red and white. It's all right. Red and black. Better get back."
Yes, there it is. But it was done in a calypso, red and white, da dum pum pa de, tiga pa pa da da de.
But deadly serious though. You might be
Deadly
dancing to the
serious. Yes,
rhythm.
yes. I remember I saw one of them because the Orinoco River used to empty out into the ocean where we were. So the Orinoco used to wash up these gigantic logs. And I remember seeing one of them in there and ran like hell because I knew the song.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Matter of fact, real quick, there was a movie out with, I think it was Humphrey Bogart, and there were these three prisoners who escaped, and they had this coral snake that they used to kill people with, and most people didn't know that's exactly what we knew what the coral snake was about. But that movie is a black and white. I think it was a color movie. You could check it out. But I forgot the name of that movie. But it introduced the coral snake.
Interesting. Interesting.
Hmm.
That's interesting. Here's a one that made a comment. They says, "I don't like when I'm compared to people, but Dr. Valentine is reminiscent of all master teachers in one." Brother, I couldn't have agreed more. Alrighty, and they are out of New York, and it is it. But people really don't realize, Phil, how long we've been out here doing this work.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
make it entertaining because that is the style of how things are. But this is deadly serious,
deadly
okay?
serious, deadly
And when
serious.
people read my book, they say, "Okay, this is no joke."
Indeed.
But
Indeed.
because of the entertaining
Yeah,
projection now,
yeah.
everything is in form of entertaining and light. Is not getting into the serious depths and research. We as both sevens, we go hard. We go down the rabbit hole. So
and we're still doing it in our 70s.
yes, we do. Yes, yes.
And
So this is
and
what I'm saying. So all I can say is this is nice. Now, let me ask you this too. With this information you shared about the diet, with this information you shared about women wanting to be in competition and whatnot, what would you recommend from your perspective? The, shall we say, some of the remedies as you see it, if that makes sense.
what would I recommend in what light?
In terms of how women can maybe find their center. And
Hmm.
yes, it's like you say women want to be liberated or whatever you were putting it, but to understand that we all have a role to play. And I
Yeah.
think what's happening too, because what I've seen is they'll say, well, I wanted this, a woman that's submissive. And I think a woman misinterpret that label because that's all this thing is. All this about labeling.
Yeah, see, the words that they use that feminism demonized. You see, submission is not submission to the man, it's submission to her nature. She is no longer submitting to her nature, but her nature forces her towards the end to become more compatible rather than combative. When she wants to have that family at 35 and 30 and 40, she becomes very compliant at that point. But when she is 18, 19, and 20, she knows everything there is to know. Just like we at boys, we think we knew everything. Like
Yep.
I said, that, when I was young, my father told me stuff. And it's only when the older I got, the smarter he got, you know. So,
My mother too. That says like my mother didn't tell me another foreign language. I
right,
just didn't get it.
you didn't get it. So today, there's no elder women teaching the younger women because they too are going after what the younger women want,
Interesting.
because they do not have that sense of eldership. Most of the women don't want to grow older. Look at why the cosmetic industry is $1 trillion industry. It ain't men making it that. The multi-billion-dollar industry is in the hair industry. That thing that these women sew into their scalp that make them bald after a while.
I even saw a commercial where it was it was obviously a young age group they were aiming at for Botox.
Yeah, for Botox. But look at, did you see the movie? I think it was a documentary that was done by Chris Rock.
Yes, hair.
Here, that the Korean community essentially makes billions of dollars on dollars that black women give to them in order to take the hair that is taken from Indian women and sold to the Koreans to stitch onto the hair of black women.
I understand some wigs can go as high as a couple of $1,000s. I was shocked.
1,000? How about 10,000?
Are you serious, Phil?
10,000. If you go up there to deal with the Hollywoods, you remember I was in the music business for a while. And
True,
I was out
true.
there behind stage with all of the superstars. And you should see what it is they spend. But of course, that's pocket change to them.
$10,000 for a hairpiece?
That's not even the fingernails. That's not even the lipstick treatments.
Wow. And yet they're projected now as the influencers, which I think is ironic.
Look, you know what? It really pisses me off that people like Lizzo and these other people can actually be influencers when they actually are promoting obesity as some kind of beauty, because they say African men like the big ones. They're like, I'm big one, I'm big mama.
Yeah, I heard. I
You know,
heard.
it's ridiculous because those are the ones that come up to us with the most sickness.
That's interesting. So there's a price that they pay on the other side for this
On
image.
the other end of it, they will be suffering. You watch, most of those obese girls are going to have prolapse wounds. They're going to have all kinds of cancers growing in their bodies because that's waste.
Isn't this explain the fibroids that a lot of women are having that did not used to be that case, not in such abundance, right?
No, no, because you can go to Africa where the women are living indigenously and naturally. You can't find any one of them have any Uh, Fibroid tumors are an industrialized disease.
Really?
Yes, because remember, a fibroid tumor is a scar. It's in my book, The Wounded Womb. It's a scarring of the womb based on trauma, based on feminine ego being damaged. And that scar creates a keloid to protect itself. The womb creates this to protect itself. And then what happens? All of the waste that cannot be removed from her body because she is now all, caught up and tense, it then filters into the area where the body is trying to protect itself. So, what is cancer? For instance, cancer in the womb or in the breast or anywhere is the body cauterizing or isolating the area by collecting the waste that would normally poison the rest of the body. What do doctors do? They go in and say, well, we got to take a biopsy. They puncture it and let the waste back into the system. Then say,
Mm,
oh, well, it's metastasizing or it's spreading. Yeah, it's spreading because you interfered with what nature did in order to protect the body in the first place.
that's amazing. That's amazing. Phil, hold up. I got to. Oh, um, this person by Callie, and Callie's going to be coming on a guest on my show in a couple of weeks. But she wants to know where can she get the book, and I'm going to explain that. Thanks, Callie, because here is in the banner about. Okay, here at the bottom is all the information you need about Dr. Phil Valentine. And by the way, he's not a fake doctor. He is a real doctor. Okay, let's be clear. The man earned his
I
his
earned my doctorate.
degrees or whatever. Yes,
I earned my doctorate. Yeah, just to let them know that a lot of people don't know that I earned my doctorate at the Life Science Institute of Texas, which folded over to become the Fit for Life Institute College of Natural Health in Canada. So I've been doing this for a long, 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 long
for a
time.
long time, long
Yes.
time. Uh,
So
Go
my
ahead.
reverency also, I'm also an ordained minister. I have what is known as ecclesiastical jurisdictor credentials from The Hague, which means that I can go anywhere on earth, perform marriages, as well as become a diplomat for any form of religious thought around the world.
See, that's what I be trying to explain to people how dynamic you are, Phil. You know what I'm saying? Listen.
That would never be known unless somebody asked me, because it's not something I like to go out
Yeah,
there.
no. I understand. We both have that in common. We like to stay under the radar. More people know of our names and
Hmm.
whatnot than they know of us in that sense. But he's an author lecturer. Your contact number is 1-800-847-1291.
That's correct.
All right, that's 1-800-847-1291. And the books, you get the books from www.lulu.com. Now, here is the thing, and I made it very clear. When you go to that site, you must, it would be best to put in the name of the book. You know how they have the search bar? Just punch in the letter of the book, The Wounded Womb, and up will pop that book where you can order it. And then his wife, Dr. Uh, Nalani, excuse me, if you put in the 7 steps to health and wellness, that's where you get it. So when you go to Lulu, it's because it's a self-publishing vehicle. This will allow you to order those books. Would that be correct, sir?
Yes, it would. When you do put it into the search box, make sure you put our names. So if you put in the Wounded Womb, then Philip Valentine, then it'll put you right into the purchase page. The same with Dr. Nalani, and just put 7 steps to healing and wellness, because there's a lot of 7 steps books, 7 steps to this, 7 steps to that.
Yeah,
You have
yeah.
to be very particular about 7 steps to healing and wellness. The other thing there, as you see, we do have my university, our university site, uksnow.org, where we do deal with adult teaching of higher metaphysics, metaphysical psychology, as well as classical naturopathy. We do it through a cyber. We were the matter of fact, we were the first online university back in 2006 when we turned a corporate tool for communicating to different satellites of a corporation. We turned that into a mechanism for a school. And we were broadcasting back then, 16 years ago, we were broadcasting to people around the world as a school. So now you see a lot of these very high super colleges are now using the internet as a means for people to get their credentials and charging pretty much the same amount we do per month. So our next one is if you go up to uksnow.org and if you wish to join our next semester, just go to where it says register and just put in your information and say that you're looking to join our UKS. Make sure you're saying that you're joining in the last box. Make sure you put registering for MPSY or Metaphysical Psychology 1. That is our initial course. That's our prerequisite course for taking any of the other courses at our university. Now, the other one you see there, ISM Homeschool, we had that for the last 10 years. We were doing online homeschooling for children a long time ago, 10 years ago. And if you want to deal with that, you take your children out of these what I call deducation, not education, but deducation facilities, then you should look up homeschool, ismhomeschool.org. And for further information, contact 800-847-1291. Now, for those of you who wish to give a gift, we say PayPal. We no longer are able to do the Cash Apps because we were, for some reason, unceremoniously kicked out of Cash App after we did our last webinar.
Hmm.
So, excuse me. Hang on a minute, please. So, what we ask is if you are going to, feel in your heart that you wish to help support us, just go to Kemet Earth, Kemet Earth, at gmail.com. That is our PayPal account. And make sure if you want to give a gift, make sure you make sure you click the feature that says sending to a friend, because that way you don't get penalized or docked for actually making that transaction. So just also, if you are going to do PayPal, please remember to do paying to a friend or sending to a friend, and that would help us greatly. Thanks a lot, Lloyd.
No, 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 brother, you got it wrong. Thank you. That's how we do it. Thank you. Okay. So everybody, please pay attention to that banner. And again, I'll repeat it also. Dr. Phil Valentine, author lecturer. His contact number is 1-800-847-1291. By the
Oh,
way, when people call, go ahead. You
so,
like
for those of you, I'm sorry, Lloyd, to cut your wisdom.
no,
Um,
no.
for those of you who've been asking me about the vaccination exemption, okay, this is pretty much all I could tell you is the vax exemption or for against the so-called jab. There's an exemption that we do that I created back in the 1980s for my own children that somehow dovetailed all over the United States. And I'm the first one to actually put one together for our community. And back when I was in New York, I went to court 3 times on my paperwork against Sykes, who was the head, adversary there at the Board of Education in New York. And for 3 times, we beat her in court with the paperwork I provided. My paperwork today takes about 2.5 hours to prepare. So if you are willing or you wish to acquire one, it's going to take time. I have people ahead of you. So you can call that number and let me know. Please, when you do call the number, and this is very important for them to know, Lloyd,
Mhm.
please make sure you say the number twice. Do not give me a soliloquy that is tantamount to the Gettysburg Address about all your problems and so forth. Please don't do
Just
that.
say the number slowly, and
Yes,
you
but
can
at
get
the
that.
end, and then at the end, they rattle off the number. Okay, all right. So I've said enough. Take off like this, you and them, and then I got to listen to the whole thing again because I sure enough want to be able to help you. Please get to the point. Start by saying the number, telling me
Slowly. There
yes,
you go. Slowly.
slowly, not too slow. Sometimes, I'm saying, okay, 8, 4,
Yeah, but slow enough.
slow enough. So what we wanted to do was to let you know, please be succinct. Please get to the point. Do not tell me the problems. We call you and you can discuss it then.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
You were in my head because I was going to ask, is this a number where people can call you for consultations or advice
Yes,
about diet and everything else that you have? Because you have a
metaphysical
whole list of things
metaphysical
people can have.
consultations,
Yeah,
nutritional
yeah,
consultations,
yeah.
getting the JP nutrition. You can talk to my wife. I'll give that directly to her. If you want to talk
And
with her,
later up the road, we're going to have her on. We're going to have her. You're going to be sitting beside her this time, okay?
well, I'm going to give
She's
her
gonna be
the
speaking.
floor because you have no idea how remarkable she can be, and she is when she
Oh,
has
so be
knowledge.
it. We'll just have her by herself, and you
Yeah,
sit on the sidelines there.
mhm, yeah. I'll be on the sideline. I'll have my pom poms, you know, cheering her on.
Can you hold on one second? I
Sure.
just, I got this thing where I says, okay, who's coming up next? Uh, Let me tell you this, and this at the bottom of the screen still is the banner of how you get in touch with my dear friend that we've been knowing for, shall we say, decades,
Yes,
seriously, and
indeed.
it's like that. But on Wednesday, and it's so interesting, Phil, because the next person coming on this Wednesday, believe it or not, is talking about the healing of the womb. So this must be Womb Week for women.
Beautiful,
Okay, believe it, I didn't plan it like this, but this is how it works. Her name is Leah Ray. And when she
beautiful.
told me the technique that she developed for women about healing a woman, she said she also has a similar technique for men to
Okay,
need to heal their organs, which I think is cool.
indeed,
So
indeed.
she's going to be on with us this Wednesday on the 6th.
Wonderful.
So with that, hold on, let me get this straight. Phil, let me put your banner back up. And let me put you back into the screen. Whoops, there we go. And I want to say, Phil, thank you so, so much.
Well,
You're
you're most
always informative, brother. God bless you.
most welcome, beloved, and thank you for the opportunity to share with the community. And you have been a light. You have been a stalwart fixture that people can depend on, and you've taught so many people. You have an acolyte that has in King Simon who has just adored your work so much that he wanted to do what you did.
And
And
did it and surpassed and did extremely well.
and did so well. And the beauty of it is that we duplicate ourselves because after we're gone, if that torch falls to the ground, what was the purpose that we were here? It's to be able to carry the torch forward into another generation and to allow that generation to nurture itself on another perspective that keeps the integrity of the work intact, but gives a whole new spin to it. You see, and that's what we did.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm very proud that we know each other, the work that has been done, and no telling how many people that we've interacted with over the course in the decades of what we've done in our dedication to help make this a better world, shall we say?
Indeed,
Okay,
indeed, beloved,
put it like
indeed,
that.
indeed.
But seriously, God bless you, Phil. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I know you're Dr. Phil Valentine. Somebody wrote in here says Dr. Phil from the TV show. No, okay, no,
No, no,
no.
no. I'm not the Dr. Phil. There was somebody who put a meme up on me on Facebook. It said the real Dr. Phil, or my
Mm-mm.
Dr. Phil, and it
No,
was
but
me
you were
against.
Dr. Phil before this guy came on the scene.
True,
All
true.
right. And then the next time, let's talk about Henrietta Lacks. That this woman, this Leo, by the way, that had cancer, and they took one of her cells, and every single medical institution is still using her cells in their petri dishes when they do research.
Indeed, and to no avail to the family. You see, that's like grave robbing
They put John Hopkins out of Baltimore. Her cell put them on the map.
on the map. On the map. That's right. And that's the beauty of what it is that shows that it is in the African or the melanated woman that all of any potential for the continuity of life in this form is through that woman and her mitochondria. Her mitochondria, the so called black woman's mitochondria, is the Alexandrian library for humanity. Okay? And most
Repeat that
people,
one more time. I want to make sure people get this very clear, Phil.
the mitochondria of the black woman is the Alexandrian library of experience. for the entire human race. And they know that they have to attack her and destroy her, change her mind, make her into the whore of Babylon. And that's exactly why it is that she is made to attack. She has been given a power that she and her body cannot tolerate. And that is power, which is what she's supposed to be dealing with. See, there's an equation here, Lloyd. Man gives up love to receive power. Women give up power to receive love. And the motivating energy that a woman feeds on is love. She forgot that. She thinks that gaining power of a man, because I get that from the women. Women tell me, listen,
I do
I got
too.
my own home, I got my own
Yeah.
car, I
Yeah.
got
Got my
my own
own six
business, I'm a
figure
this. Why
salary.
am
Yeah.
I
All
without
that.
a man? Well, you telling me what it is that a man does. So why would I want to marry a man? You're telling me that your bibliography and everything in your resume is what a man does. I don't care. Men don't care what it is you earn as a man because that's just competition to us. We want someone that's compatible. So we don't care what money you make. There's certain young men who are raised by their mothers who don't know what it is to be responsible, who don't want to take initiative because they never learned initiative. They were never harmed. They were never actually brought into manhood by a man. They imprinted a female energy. So they're lazy. They say, yo, take care of me. Yeah, babe. Go out there and work. Bring me the money. That's a pimp.
Yeah. Or so called pimp.
Oh,
But that's
so-called
not the
pimp.
real pimps that
Right.
we know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Back in the day,
Yeah.
But so that's what I'm saying to you. Um, you have to understand, women, our sisters. We don't care about you acquiring power because that's what we chase. And if you're telling us you got power, then who are we to you? You're not want a husband. You want a roommate. Okay? Because at the door, I don't care if you're a CEO of a mega corporation, you drop that at the door when you come into the place that we are supposed to inhabit. I make the final. If you choose me to
Thank
be the man,
you.
if
Thank
you
you.
choose me to be the
You
man, you
can't have
choose
it
me
both
to be.
ways.
That's right. You
You can
choose
have it
me to
both
be the
ways.
leader. Can't be both ways
Oh,
because.
and I try to tell to my women clients it's so important.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing to love a man is one thing, but to show him respect
Oh,
is even more powerful. And
more
I
than
don't
respect.
think women really, really understand because if even like here in Harlem, the brothers in the Caribbean, everywhere I go,
Mhm.
what do we say? Respect,
Respect.
respect. And this is
Respect.
men among men.
Big
Okay.
time. Big time. And you have to understand that women today have not been taught to respect men. Why? Because we have been diminished by the Oprahs and the rest of those harpies that actually were hired by the European man to make sure that the black woman, who was the underpinnings and the foundation to the home, they made sure that she distrusted the man and undermined. So anything that you did that was masculine was derided. Oh, you ain't nothing but this and that, and oh, you this and that, and oh, you this, and you misogynist and this. And I'm saying, yes, I am a sexist because I'm heterosexual.
Yes,
As
yes,
a sexist,
definitely.
I'm a sexist because I'm heterosexual. I don't want you doing my work. My work is my work as a man. And if you don't respect that, then I can't be with you.
But that gets back to the word. That's why I tell women, if nothing else, respect a man you're dealing with.
If you
Not
chose
like
him,
I've heard one. Oh, I got him. He's in my hip pocket.
hmm
Really,
yeah,
really.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
is
I
that how
don't
you
doubt it.
think of it?
I don't doubt it. But again, I was vilified at the time when I first wrote that book, something
I know
60
you were.
years ago. Yeah, but only now that they're calling me back. I got a few sisters who called me back in the day, back when I was doing the Wounded Womb. They called me and said, something, Brother Valentine, I got your book. And, everything that you said back then, I hated you. But everything you're saying right now, because I've learned and calmed down and I had a good dose of life,
Hmm.
everything you're saying in the book was actually predicting what was going to happen. So you're going to see a lot of stuff in the book that's happening now, but you have to remember it was written some 20, 25 years ago.
I was gonna say, Phil, but you've always been ahead of the curve, buddy. It's not your fault. It's just somebody has to have a little vision up in this piece, so it might as well be you. God bless you, Phil. Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart, man.
Much love
And
to
we're
you.
gonna have Sister Dr. Nalani
Yeah.
on to talk about her book. And as I said, you'll be sitting on the side waving pom poms. Okay.
Thank you, beloved.
Thank you too. So
Indeed.
everybody, I want to thank you very, very much. I really enjoyed this. I hope you have too. And please take a lesson from what you have heard tonight. This can be seen in about maybe 10 or 15 minutes on YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube. You click on Numbers in You, comma Lloyd Strayhorn, and it'll get you into tonight's show. Everybody, I want to thank you. For those that put in your comments, I appreciate that. But now you see why I never assume that everybody knows my guests and who they are. There's a reason for my madness. Everybody, have a blessed day. See you on Wednesday.